Hi, I'm Allison.
Hi, I'm Cara.
Welcome to our weekly podcast where we talk all things career, beauty, and lifestyle.
It's time for Beauty Break.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Beauty Break. My name is Allison Lewis.
And I'm Cara Peloso. Welcome back.
So, before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who has clicked on this video today. It means the world to us that people are listening, tuning in, subscribing, and liking. I think watching a growth of something that we started quite a few months ago, just kind of watching it evolve has become a big passion of ours, I think,
Yeah.
and just like chatting about it more, discussing it, and like seeing where this grows. And I'm excited to hopefully get set up so that we can start taking questions from the people, you human beings who are listening or viewing on YouTube or however you're streaming. We'd love to hear from you. So please feel free when we get this set up to send us a questionnaire of something maybe you want to ask us.
Perfect.
So yeah.
So we interview people each week, friends of ours, people that intrigue us. And that portion of the show is called Beauty Breakdown. But we like to start the show with a little banter and, topics that come up while we're working in our treatment rooms. And was that what we were going to cover?
Yeah, we want to cover. Well, today on my way to work, I was thinking of the first episode that we recorded.
Yeah.
And you had answered our question that we ask everybody. What does beauty mean to you? And your answer was truly one word, health. You like made a pause, you made a point, you made a moment. And that got me thinking once I listened to it a couple times actually. And I started thinking like, what has health meant to me? And it really truly has set in as mental health for me. Like that has allowed me to actually feel beautiful for myself. And I think I want to be super open with everyone and like listeners about my mental health journey and all that it's kind of taken to get to where I am right now, to even be open and willing to share things.
Sure.
But the biggest thing I wanted to talk about was mental health and how it correlates to the use of drinking, specifically alcohol, and how that deeply affected my anxiety in my life. And I didn't even realize it at the time. And what kind of gave me I love Oprah Winfrey's note of like aha moment, but my aha moment was when I was reading a book called Alive AF by Samantha Perkins. You can actually get it on Amazon for $dollars. And
I will try and link it in the show notes.
hopefully. And yeah, I think that would be great. Jacqueline, our producer, if you're listening, please put a link. It's about an anxious mom's journey to becoming alcohol free. And the way that she kind of gave me this like green light was she truly explained how your relationship with alcohol is yours and it's nobody else's. And if it doesn't feel good in your life, then there's something to look at. And I think for me, because my anxiety was so just like taking over every hangover I felt, it was like I would wake up crying with anxiety. Like I would call my mom and just be like, I'm unhappy, I'm unwell.
And this was when your husband was traveling, right?
Yeah. My husband, if you don't know, my beautiful husband, my beautiful ginger man, he is in the army and he was deployed to Somalia for quite some time, a whole entire year. And that's when my anxiety was at its peak. And that's when this like alcohol relationship for me started to become unhealthy. I started to feel like I wasn't just working hard and playing hard. I was working hard and then wanting to disassociate with like anything that was outside of work. And so when he came back, I was like, I had not really worked on tools to like work through this anxiety. And once I read this book, I was like, wait a second, I can take control. Like,
How did you do that?
well, I think I chose complete and total cold turkey.
Yep.
And if anyone's listening and they do have somebody who is struggling with like alcohol addiction where they're drinking every single day and it's a part of their like ecosystem of their body, cold turkey, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I don't think that's the answer. I think you have to like gradually get off of this because this really comes down to health and it is a poison. It's a poison to your body.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about this because health is beautiful and taking action for something that doesn't feel good anymore, that is powerful. You're not losing in this game.
Sure.
You're not a alcoholic. In her book, she talks about there's drinkers and then there's the drunks. And like the drinkers are celebrating a football game or a win or a failure, like we're here to like have a good time. And then she says the only other one is the drunks, like the person in the brown paper bag stumbling home or, sitting in a bar all day long. But society, there's so much more in between that.
Yes.
And I think there is an issue in big alcohol,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and it's given to us to consume. We're told if you celebrate with champagne, that's great.
Yeah.
But it is a poison. So
I mean, what is the default? Let's go for a drink, or I'll meet you for a drink.
Yeah.
It's just so acceptable. And there's totally a place for it, but it's not for everyone.
Not for
And I think it's great that nowadays people are becoming more aware of that. A lot of people are not drinking. There's so many mocktails now. And let's face it, like, especially for women, the way we metabolize alcohol is much different than men. How men metabolize it. So it's a lot more difficult for our bodies to filter it. So yeah, it's a lot less healthful. Not that it's healthy for men, but they metabolize it
differently. Yeah. So I think when I sit back for me, I said my relationship's going to be different. When I am on my day-to-days, no alcohol. Like if I am working, I'm just zero, like I don't eat it. I can be around it. It's in my home. It doesn't bother me. When I'm on vacation though, I'm okay to partake in that poison. I know that sounds bad, but I'm okay to expose myself to that drug. Like I'm okay to chemically change my brain. I'm okay to like have a good time by actually kind of decompressing because there is a moment of decompression when you do it. There is a serotonin that kind of hits you first, and then you become depleted with,
Yeah.
But I think for me, there's this moment of like, that's my new relationship. If I'm on vacation, it's okay.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know your relationship with alcohol. People are going to drink. I drink, not regularly, but I'm more like you where I'll save it for a special occasion or with a meal. Like I love a steak and wine, in that context. But I can't do it anymore. Like, regularly.
Did that change through your like life?
Oh, totally. Yeah. As I got older, when I reached actually menopause, I had a much lower tolerance and just like I couldn't recuperate for a few days, so. And I didn't like how I looked either, by the way, like puffy.
It affects you. Totally affects you. When I did stop, I did feel a glow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That's
I just thought it was on screen today.
That's great.
So.
That's great. Yeah. Good.
All right. So let's get ready for our beauty breakdown guest. All right, everyone, welcome back. We are here with our beauty breakdown guest, Renée Gadar. She is a transformative figure in cosmetology education and a starch advocate for natural hair textures. Raised in North Miami's vibrant Black and Brown community, Renée cultivated a deep appreciation and understanding of hair from an early age. Initially pursuing education as a math teacher in New York, she eventually returned to her roots, joining Neal Corp, parent company of Aveda Arts and Science Institutes. At Neal Corp, Renée's groundbreaking work addressed a critical gap in texture education within cosmetology. She pioneered initiatives to integrate comprehensive texture training across all Aveda institutes nationwide, including the introduction of texture mannequins and student kits. Renée also co-founded the Texture Education Collective, collaborating with industry leaders to champion inclusive practices and curriculum standards. Her influence extends into regulatory reform, working alongside the Louisiana State Cosmetology Board to mandate texture education and licensing exams. Renée remains a powerful advocate for diversity, representation, and systematic change within the beauty industry, ensuring all voices are valued and heard. So that's welcome.
That's amazing. Renee, thanks for joining us. That's some incredible work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, changing things out there.
Yes.
Do you want to address anything in the intro that we said?
Except for me running short on breath at the very end.
I think you read that like a champ, better than I would have done it. I tell you that. Great.
I was all,
No, it's just been a few times in my career here. I've been told to breathe, step back from my work, and appreciate the work that I'm doing and like what is changing. And I don't like, I recently, there were big layoffs at Aveda. So like as recently as a month ago, I no longer work for the brand. And within that month, I've been actually able to step back and see what I've done. And I just feel like, wow, I did a lot. But it doesn't feel like that when you're doing the work. It feels overwhelming. Feels like you're just scratching the surface of really big things that need to change and that there's just so much to do. You can't appreciate the work when you're still in the throes of the work.
Yeah.
So right now it's just nice to like have that breath and be like, wow, girl, you did that.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm only just now feeling that way after like years and years of work.
which is crazy because I've always looked at you being like, wow, Renee, she's so cool. She's so talented. I feel lucky enough that I actually have gotten to be educated by you during my apprenticeship when we both worked at a Rojo located in Soho. Yeah. Intense place of business, but there was definitely, I feel like maybe I could speak for both of us in that moment, a lack of education for texture and for as an assistant, you were the sole person who I got my texture education from. Like you taught me how to take my flat round brush energy and like, work on a hairline. So you are not only just an amazing hairstylist that I follow, but also just an amazing person to work with and be educated by personally.
Oh, and he's an innovator too. You've been very innovative in your field.
Yeah, I feel that way. I have a sense that Madam C.J. Walker didn't understand the mammoth she was creating when she was creating it. And I feel similarly. I remember when I got to Arroyo, I was stunned by what like my peers didn't know and what wasn't being taught because, and not stunned like, "Ugh, I can't believe this." More stunned like, for real? Because when I like growing up in a Black and brown community, that's all we did. So in my head, like hairdressing was such a Black space, and like the techniques that like were second nature to me, I was just it felt like common sense. So when I was walking into a space where people didn't have access to that knowledge, I was just like, what? Yeah. And it was, there was no ill will to the what. I was just literally like, I can't believe it. And I remember like, Nick, we can say what we want about Nick, right? But what I always respected about Nick was what he built. And he was very serious about his brand and he held everybody to a really high expectation. Now, how he got there, me and him wouldn't have done that the same. But I respected the high caliber of education that he had. And I would have kept working for him longer if we didn't disagree on me feeling like, like his master stylists were asking for my advice. And I was far from a master stylist. And I was just like, if this isn't a clear sign that there's a gap here, and maybe we should formalize this and make it into a class, and I'm not just being pulled away from my clients or giving my education away for free when I'm seeing that you're paying other people for education that I'm giving away. I would also like to be paid for the education. It's like that, like we differed sharply on that. And that's when I realized like I had to leave because I didn't want to become like a toxic person in an environment that was so ripe with toxicity. I wanted to like always contribute positive things. And before I got to an embittered place, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna cash my chips in. Thank you so much for what you gave me, Nick, because what you gave me in my hands, nobody could take away from me. But it is all now time to like move on. But yeah, I just, so even in that, I was just like, I left with like, this is so big. The gap is so big. How am I ever going to like start to fill it? And then when I jumped into like my some of my work at Aveda, I was just like, every time I put one foot in front of the other, I felt like I was realizing what I had to do. And then I just went about like doing it. And at the time, it just felt so small. And like I said, it's only just now where I'm just like, oh man, had big effects. Yeah.
And such self-awareness you had, and it sounds like a really supportive community where you came from, right? Your work has value and you recognize that and stood up for yourself. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. And, you already answered our first question, which, reflecting on your early experience in North Miami, how your community influenced your passion for advocating for natural hair textures, because it was second nature to you, right? You didn't know any difference. It was just what you did.
Yeah. When you're entrenched in a community, when you're a fish in the ocean, we breathe through our gills. That's what we do. And then I felt like I got thrown on land and I was just like, oh, we breathe through noses here? What is this?
Look at my nose.
Beautiful. I feel like your children are probably full of these like beautiful metaphors.
Yeah, because I'm full with it. They just roll their eyes at me. But I bet you when they're older, they will be spewing them same things too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, wait, tell us about your kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 2. My son is 12 and my daughter is 9.
Oh.
Yeah, they're very cool people.
Yeah.
They're super cool. I actually, again, I feel like I'm like some super fan. I'm like, Renee, I follow you all the time. But I actually love what you've been recently posting about. And it's like these little moments in your story where you kind of give this like lens of like, I thought my kid was like this, but look how they're actually coming out as this human being. And I found that to be almost kind of like a beautiful educational moment. I don't have kids, but like I sometimes sit back and I'm like, whoa, that's a really interesting perspective to be able to think of your kid as not just your kid, but the person they're becoming. I thought that was cool. I like what you're doing. It's cool.
Thank you. I feel like I got that from being a teacher.
Oh, that's right. You're a teacher too. Yeah.
Yeah, it actually goes into our second question, actually.
You're going to appreciate this. My daughter's 20 and she posted something on Instagram today where it was this video of this girl and her mom, and they like kind of look similar and they're walking down the street, and it said something like, when you start like
realizing your mom and you were just like the same person, you finally have that relationship.
And I was like, oh my God, that meant so much to me,
I had an awakening like that when I became a mother. I remember calling my mom and being like, I get it now.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom. I understand. And then, like, I'm saying things to my kids that my mom said, like, verbatim. It would come out of my mouth, and I'm like, Don Gadar, is that you? It can't be me. Can't be me. But, yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. You're so beautiful. Okay. I'm going to go to question number 3.
Love it.
Okay. You've successfully partnered with the Louisiana State of Cosmetology Board to incorporate mandatory texture education into state licensing exams. What was your experience navigating regulatory reform? Yeah, that's super interesting. Like, did you go in front of Congress or something?
No, not me. So I am a hairdresser, and I like being a hairdresser. So like, I'm not like a celebrity hairstylist or anything. Like I literally like being behind the chair. And I've been doing that since I was 9. So it's like my happy place. But when I was partnering with the Neals, the person who runs Neal Corporation now, his name is Edwin Neal. And prior to his father giving him the company, he was an attorney. So he is accustomed to like fighting these fights. And I remember when I started collaborating with him to make all of these equitable changes within his brand, he was just like, my father left one legacy and I aim to leave another legacy. And he was just, like we had several conversations over this because we had like a personal relationship and a working relationship as well. And, like I would just vent about all of the gaps that we need to get to. And I was just like, our domain is Aveda's Institutes, but obviously students are not just coming through Aveda Institutes to learn about hair. They're going to Paul Mitchell, they're going to Empire. There are so many different beauty schools. And the reality is just like, even if we can say we're going to put textured mannequins in our kits and they're going to learn texture here, we can't guarantee that every institute will do that justice unless the tests change. If the test changed, then everyone has to start teaching it, not just Aveda schools, but also forcing all Aveda schools to do it, especially if we're leading the change. And he was just like, okay, like that was never on my radar. He figured out who was in charge in the state of Louisiana, because it's a state by state change. It's not like a federal change. So he figured out who in Louisiana makes these decisions around State Board, and he approached them, essentially. He got himself on that board. And then he was just like, all right, Renee, what do we need to change? So I told him what I thought needed to be. And he then pitched it to the board that he was on. And they were like, well, we could do this, we can't do this, we could do this, we could possibly do that. And so it was a lot of back and forth figuring out what could be changed. Because the state board, as you can imagine, they move glacially for change. So it's just like an old conglomerate of people making decisions.
Girls.
Yeah. And making decisions very slowly. Yeah. So you're asking people who hadn't changed a system since like the 60s to all of a sudden make changes. Now, I will say we were riding off of like what was white guilt, I call white guilt, in 2020, 2021, which meant a lot of things that never moved finally was moving.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, we got to ride this wave now. We got to squeeze this orange for all the juice we can get out of it. So he pitched and we landed. Now, it wasn't a perfect scenario. It's like you have to demonstrate hair cutting on a textured mannequin, but it has to be the same doll head that you perform the pin curls on. So it has to be straight. You have to perm it to make it curly and then demonstrate it on that. Where I wanted a whole new mannequin. And the test board was just like, that's going to cost us X amount of dollars. There's no way we can do that. So it's like, it's not ideal, but what it did do was put it on the map that why aren't we testing for this? Like, obviously we need to test for this. So once the board agreed to that part, they were like, they made the changes. And because I think it's just juicy news. And you know how news works. Like, news is like, if it's juicy, they're going to run that all over the place. And what was juicy about it is that people who aren't in the industry absent-mindedly think that everyone who goes to a cosmetology school learns how to do hair. And if you are a person with hair on their head, you think that you're included in that. And I don't think that people, the regular civilian, not in beauty, realizes that that's not what's happening. So the fact that they were like, we're here in good old 2021, and we're just now talking about changing the state board to include this, didn't it always? And that was the T. And because of that, those changes that we made in Louisiana, a task force quickly got together called the TEC. And I had a meeting with the TEC and they were like, well, what do we need to keep doing? I said, copy and paste state by state. With the changes that we were able to make in Louisiana should be able to pop in every state because the costs were low. It's not ideal, but what at least you have it is now on the map to be edited later. But at least it's on the map now. And so that's what it's been. So I didn't go in front of anyone, but the board did with the ideas that I helped them with. And then the TEC now is taking those same things and pitching it to every state. And right now we got Louisiana first. Then we got Minneapolis, because that's the home state of Aveda. Then we got California, easy billing, and then New York. So that's what we have so far. But
congratulations. Yeah. I mean, just to make something move like that, it's incredibly impressive. As you said, like it's such a bureaucracy. It's such like a old system. And yeah, it needs to be diverse. And yeah, it's like you said, come on, it's like 2025, man. Let's get this done.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. It's just a lot of the things about equity, in my opinion, are very obvious.
Yeah.
And like, it's not obvious to everyone. And sometimes it's the same metaphor of me like breathing through my nose all of a sudden, where I'm just like, how could it not be obvious to you? you know? But I think like it used to be jarring. It's not jarring anymore. I realize that what's common sense to some isn't common sense to others. And you just have to shine a light on a place that was in the shadows before for someone. And like once the light is shined, hopefully like, change just takes off like lightning bolt.
Wow. I'm sitting here and in my head, it seems so easy to be like, cut the mannequin head in half and we have texture on one side and straight on the other side. Like, that's where my brain is like, just have the test. Cause I remember when you're taking the test, you're like, pink girls go here. You're going to do this here. It's in its quads and you have your roller set. And I'm just like, it feels like kind of like there's so many, you could even just part it down the center, have the front side be a tech, like what?
That's a good point.
I'm just kind of sitting here being like, whoa, that's where it starts to find that technical need. And then it really comes down to like money. Like, what are people willing to spend to make change? Right.
That's a huge part. I can tell you when I had them put a textured mannequin in every kit for Aveda. Aveda has a lot of schools. And the places that we were sourcing our mannequins was Pivot Point. Pivot Point, they had a textured mannequin, but they didn't produce them in bulk because no one ever ordered them. And when we first decided to put a textured mannequin in every kit, we bought Pivot Point out of their textured mannequins. Like they were sold out. So they were backlogged. And they were like, wait a minute. And now, just 2 or 3 years later, because Pivot Point realizes that by that one act, textured mannequins are in demand, they have 5 different versions. And they have ones that have quadrants, like what you're talking about, but that didn't exist before.
It's crazy. That's crazy. We have mannequin heads that when you're learning how to color, there's like one that has 50% gray, one that has 100, and you practice that. Like, whoa.
Yeah. So I mean, this is gonna get a little dark and deep for a bit, but it'll come back light here in a second. But when a group of people have been so disenfranchised that they're dehumanized for 400 years, as industries start to build in the United States, they become white-led because the people doing the labor are the Black and brown people. And at the top are the people who have been amassing wealth and money and ownership and access for themselves over this long duration of time. So what ends up happening is at the top of every industry, it could be oil, it could be food, it could be pharma, it could be our favorite, beauty. And so what ends up happening is that at the top of beauty, even though you have legends like Madam C.J. Walker and countless others, you still at the top of beauty is still white, which means they control like what Pivot Points thinks about when they're making a mannequin. They also control about what ends up on a test. They control, this is what's important to learn in order to get a license to do hair. They get to decide what's important, unfortunately. And that decision isn't a diverse decision. And for that, you get 7 different kinds of straight-haired mannequins and not a single texture mannequin because they decided what was important, huh?
And then along comes Renee.
So, like, I told Neil the other day, because again, like I'm kind of severed from the company. And they were like, I can't believe that we've lost you. Like, what do we do? I said, what you need is to have a diverse point of view or voice in your decision making. Because the reality of it is that you did not grow up Black, which means you have no idea what the misses are. You see things like a lot of people who own a lot of the industries. So you're unable to see where the gaps are because the life that you're living, there aren't as many gaps for you because these industries are providing for you in a lot of ways. You're not finding as many gaps in your life. And just for like every industry, we know, and there's just so much market research and study that when you have a diverse team, everyone is better. Everyone wins. The white people win, the Black people win, and everyone in between wins if it's diverse, because you have a certain experience, I have a certain experience, and a diverse contribution and voice gets all the marks, help fill all the gaps. You have a way more robust decision-making team making robust changes in your company. And I was just like, really? I mean, the statistic is that Black and brown people spend 80% more in beauty than any other demographic. So if we're in beauty, everybody who leads beauty or in the beauty industry should have a diverse leadership team. Period. And unfortunately, that is still not the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. You have such an incredible story. And to get back to, like you said earlier, that you're not like you're a hairdresser, you love to be behind the chair. What do you love about it so much? How does it like
why
turn you on?
people like,
Yeah.
why is that your happy place?
It's a transference of energy, you know? I always feel like clients kind of bring people who are similar to them. Like stylists kind of attract people who are similar to them, but also people you would have never met in real life, like who do all kinds of amazing things, who live all kinds of lives. And when I started doing hair as a little girl, like braiding, it was because I used to braid my sister's hair because my mom worked all the time. And then like when we went to church, everybody'd be like, oh, who braided Rachel's hair? And then all of a sudden I'm having all of these clients. And my clients were little girls, like like my sister's age, my little sister's age. And we'd just be talking. And I mean, I would make them laugh. They would make me laugh. I'd also understand my sister better via these little people because, you know, I had a love-hate relationship with my sister, but I had a very loving relationship with these clients. And I just felt like these little people helped me understand the little person in my life better. And like, I feel like clients being behind the chair to another human being in such an intimate way, because if you just think about how many people touch your scalp, there's not a lot, that's not a high number of people who are just following your scalp. And I always feel like for hours. I feel like hairdressers always get tea because people are unaware why they're opening up so much. And I think they're opening up so much because we're in an intimate space of theirs. And the amount of times I've had clients be like, I don't know why I told you all that. In my head, I'm like, I know exactly why you told me all that. But when I was in high school, like I'm uncomfortable with popularity, but I knew everyone and no one talked ill of me because I knew everyone's tea. And I was just like, you know, this isn't bad.
Because you were doing people's hair, or was your
She's the keeper of everyone's secret.
right? It's just right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like the griot and the therapist at the same time, you know? And just like having so many conversations with so many different people from so many different walks of life has helped me to be such a broad person, you know? I just feel like there's nothing better than being a hairdresser. You know, like we're not performing, we're not doing something serious as like brain surgery or open heart surgery, but we're doing something so serious that people don't think as seriously about. And I'm like, it makes for such a beautiful relationship between client and stylist. And because I've been doing it since I was so little, when my life feels like it's in chaos, I cannot wait for a fully booked day behind the chair. It just makes me feel grounded. It's I've been standing behind people in that kind of interaction since I was a little girl. So it just feels like my home base.
Yeah, I feel the same way I do facials, Renee. So I feel the same way. Like, so funny you said that because, you know, like I've been so stressed lately and I'm like, I can't wait to get my hands on a client, you know, and just like do my thing. And, you know, that energy exchange too. It's so beautiful what you said. And you're winning people's confidence and they feel comfortable with you and they trust you. And that's why they confide in us, right?
Yeah.
Because they feel, it's so intimate.
Mm-hmm.
That's really beautiful.
I feel that deeply. And I think what you kind of said, right, it like hit some nail on the head for me where it was like, when I'm in chaos and I'm working and I'm with my client, I'm sharing that moment, being able sometimes even to like sprinkle in maybe something I'm questioning, like whether it's like, oh, I'm in a fight with my mom or something. And I'm like, have you ever had a conflict with your mother? You know, just kind of see what someone else is dealing with. There is a moment of like, oh yeah, this is also for me too. Like it's for them. But then all of a sudden there is a moment where I can like, I feel that connection back and forth. So
yeah. And countless times I've been taking a cape off of a client and I said, I know you came here for your hair today, but you really came to give me that little piece of advice that you gave me earlier.
yeah.
Yes, it's definitely a transfer of energy. I give to you, you give to me. And it's just like hairdressing has just made me it sounds so corny, but it really has made me a better human being. Hairdressing. Yeah.
Love that.
And hairdressing is intense. I mean, because you have to, of course, perform your craft, but you also have to mentally, exchange with that person. So it's a really hard work.
Yeah.
My work is also hard because, but I don't have to talk as much actually because I'm, massaging someone's face. So a lot of times they'll just relax. But I often think that about you too. When I come out, my room is right across the hall from Allison. So when I come out of the room, I see her like working and talking and like you're fully engaged.
Yeah, that's it. I also just want to shout out the colorists one time because y'all are with clients for hours.
Yes.
Yeah, I am with a client in a neat little box, just the way I like it, a good little hour. You're in for a haircut and you're out after.
So you cut. Okay.
I cut.
Yeah.
I cut inside. Every once in a while, I'm locked into braids that take a few more hours. But yeah, to do that constantly is a lot more.
Yeah, I've actually had moments where I had to talk to my therapist about it. And I was like, I don't know how to stop. I get to such a point of like, just total, like, I can't tell you anymore. I have nothing left to give. And she was like, why don't you leave the room? And I was like, oh, you can do that. She's like, don't they process? And I was like, sometimes. She was like, leave, just get out of the space, give yourself the space. And so thanks for the shout out for the colorist. We appreciate.
Yeah. This was such an incredible conversation. I loved hearing about everything you've done.
I know. I'm just like in bed tonight, just like going over this in my head. And I swear there's going to be one more. I stood up and be like, I should have said this.
So why don't you ask Renee our last question? This is someone we ask a question that we ask everyone. And Allison's going to ask you.
All right, Renee, what does beauty mean to you?
Beauty to me is the Rainbow Coalition. Beauty is everyone wanting to feel beautiful. And I think that Black and brown women spend 80% more in the beauty industry than any other demographic because I think that our appearance has been policed more than any other demographic. And so my biggest thing for Black and brown women in beauty is to feel ease for once. And so that's kind of my mission now that I'm no longer with Aveda and I'm kind of going out on my own. Without clipped wings, I want to bring ease in beauty for women who look like me. Because I think beauty is like whole wellness. It's like if you're good in here, you also radiate more beautifully. If your hair is good, you radiate more beautifully. Like beauty is outward and inward. And so I want everyone to find ease and acceptance in their beauty.
It's beautiful. It's really lovely. And it's stunning. And Renee, you're so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Inside and out. Like,
take you. Follow her on Instagram. She also she can lift weights and do make it straight training. That's amazing. She is super, super mom, superhuman. Big fan of her here.
Yes. And maybe you'll come by our suites and meet us sometime.
Yeah.
I'd love to. And I'd also, I know this is, I think, episode 7 or 8 for y'all. As y'all keep going, this was such a beautiful conversation. I'd love to come back if you.
Yeah, seriously, if there's a moment where you're like, you know what, this is what I want to talk about. This voice needs to be heard. We're seeing where this journey goes for us with Beauty Break, but we really do envision this being a platform for men, women, they, thems, human beings to share their stories, to share truly kind of what we talked about is that gift that we're given to meet a ton of different people from a ton of different walks of life. That's what Beauty Break is. It's a break in your day to talk about beauty, but deeper than just the surface. So thank you so much for being a guest. This is just a gift. Thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to say, Renee? Anything that comes to mind?
I mean, follow me on IG because as I start to you know, when I was with Aveda, I didn't have to post like the fact that I was a hairdresser and still cutting. And so sometimes people be like, "Oh, you still do hair?" And I'm like, "Yes, I still do hair. Please come see me." But also just whatever I want to do next. So I'm trying to build courage to post my work on Instagram again, because that's how the young people do it. And I'm trying to, you know, follow suit. But also, like, again, my whole beauty wellness is also being a mom. Like, I do want people to leave my salon feeling beautiful, but like, if you go to my Instagram, it's also a very personal take on my life and my own sojourning through beauty, and my whole body wellness as well. So it's just, sometimes it can be a very fun place to be.
I love it. Wait,
I'm entertained. I'm enjoying it. It's great. Follow Renee. Renee, what's your handle on Instagram?
So it is at Renee SRH.
Beautiful.
SRH. What does SRH stand for?
So S is my middle name, Sasha. R is my other middle name, Ruth. And H was my old last name. Your girl's no longer married, but I can't change the H to a G.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Awesome.
All right, Renee, thank you so much. And to everybody who is listening today, follow her, follow us, like and subscribe. We want to have more of these conversations. We want to just keep going. So thank you all for clicking on this video today. Thank you all for taking the time. And Renee, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me, y'all.
Pleasure. Bye.